Coming up today on Ktown Social Club, President Trump takes office again, surrounded by oligarchs. Red Note is a hit, and are Americans defecting? Are Yoon supporters taking care of their mental health? And rapper Xiangyu will be joining us via Zoom to give us the inside scoop on politics in Taiwan. All that and coming up. Boom.
From Koreatown, Los Angeles, thank you for tuning in to Ktown Social Club. For the issues you really care about. With Young Kim, David Yoon, Hajin Cho, Ed Choi, and I'm your host, Michael Kim. And with that, let's start the show.
All right, everybody, welcome back. We got a new president. How you all feeling? I'm Young. You look really happy.
I'm sorry, dude. No, I'm not. No, it's
not me you have to be sorry about.
No, it's not really. It's not about really who's president, but more a recognition
Put your head
of
down so people can read
what
your
I
head.
think has. Oh, actually, I got a gift for you guys too. But
Ooh, a
I was gonna
gift.
give you one too, but
A
I don't
gift.
know. He says you get really
Oh
triggered.
my god!
I mean, he saved TikTok.
He didn't.
Okay, I knew it. Here, but I'll give this one to you.
I got the black one.
You don't want one? You sure you don't want one?
Nobody wants the classic red
You
one?
want the OG red?
Holy shit.
OG red. Yeah, there you go.
How many of these do you have?
I can't believe I'm wearing this.
Yeah, baby.
I actually appreciate that you didn't get me one.
I know. I wanted to. Actually, you were the first one, but he told me you get triggered, so I didn't want to trigger you.
No, I get triggered by
Damn.
misinformation.
Okay.
What's the 45, 47?
Because he's the 45th and 47th president. I'm not a Trumper, but, this is a gift. The hat is not. I don't think I'd wear it in public.
Dude,
but
Never surrender.
it's the dark MAGA.
The dark
Okay,
one.
whatever that means.
the dark side of the force.
So is there a bright MAGA?
Yeah, I
That's the
guess this is
OG
the bright
MAGA.
MAGA.
No, I don't expect you guys to wear it. I mean, it's a good souvenir to
I'll
have.
wear it in Texas.
It's a good souvenir to have.
Well, I appreciate it.
I'm going to wear this for protection when I go to Texas.
That's,
Anyway.
that's so fake, dude. That's like don't be a fake ass like that.
MAGA.
That's like. I wore this in LA, man. All
You
right.
wore that in L.A.
Hell yeah, I rode with it in
when
my
you
car.
when you were filming OnlyFans.
Yeah.
Okay. All right. Let's just. You know what? Maybe it's better over here.
Just put it away.
No,
I don't
I
want
think
to trigger anyone.
I think he's fine.
Stop triggering him.
I don't care.
Okay.
Okay.
All right. So we saw Trump is back, and man, he was surrounded by a bunch of billionaires, wasn't he? Like all the top ones: Jeff Bezos, Zuckerberg. Who else?
Right, but Bezos, Zuckerberg, and these guys are that previously very, very critical of the administration, and then you see half of these oligarchs or whatever you call them. These guys are. What do you even say? What is that word?
Oligarchs.
Oligarchs, right? Oligard? I don't know these fancy
Oligarchs,
words.
I
Dude.
think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I don't know these fancy words. Anyhow.
Biden was warning us that America's turning into an oligarchy.
Well, I mean, these
It
guys
is
are
now.
these guys were the guys that had Biden's back too. So I mean,
I don't know. What did Jeff Bezos ever say about?
he was critical about Trump. I know that.
He was?
A lot of his policies as well.
Oh, I see. Well, look at Trump there.
Hey, look, is
Look at
that
all these? That's the Google
that
CEO, the
Zuckerberg's
Jeff
wife?
Bezos, Zuckerberg. That's his
That's
wife.
wife?
Wait, who's the lady on the right?
That's Jeff Bezos' Sanchez. Is that her name?
girlfriend?
Yeah,
Because
yeah.
Zuckerberg was caught looking at her boobs, right?
Dude,
Yeah.
if you marry Bezos, dude, you're set for like your generations of your kids are set for life.
She was what did she do? Entertainment or weather at Fox 11 or
Wasn't her name
KTSC?
Lauren Sanchez. or
Lauren
something?
Sanchez, yeah. You also see Elon Musk is here. Wow, like it's just a who's who of whatever,
There's RFK.
Yeah, RFK, Zuckerberg.
That's like the insider crew. What about Zuckerberg? Why do you think he's like kissing butt? Like because of TikTok? Do you think he was just trying to he's trying to be behind at the end of TikTok?
It's the same reason why they're all there. They,
Like Zuckerberg, he's so sleazy. He's just ooh.
well, yeah.
Yeah, Trump looks so funny.
She looks pretty gangster, dude.
Yeah. So anyway,
And then I saw some CNBC, some reporters, and they're wearing black ties in the inauguration. And I'm like, well, wow, that was just really wow. Okay.
Anyway, Caitlin Johnson says, see, this is what I'm talking about. Trump makes the U.S. empire more transparent. Normally, the fact that the U.S. is an oligarchy is more disguised. Now it's, hey, yeah, here are the various unelected billionaires who will be running the country along with the billionaire
I
president.
mean, he is the guy who says that you'd be dumb if you pay taxes. What I mean, he takes.
And speaking of which, I want to, there's this thing when people talk about how China's doing really well now, a lot of conservatives will say, well, that's because of capitalism. China's not communist or whatever. But I may have played this before, but let me just play this one more time.
China is a market economy, and it's a vibrant market economy, but it is not a capitalist country. Here's why. There's no way a group of billionaires could control the Politburo as billionaires control American policymaking. So in China, you have a vibrant market economy, but capital does not rise above political authority. Capital does not have enshrined rights. In America, capital, the interest of capital and capital itself has risen above the American nation. The political authority cannot check the power of capital. And that's why America is a capitalist country, but China is not.
No, there's truth in what he says.
And this guy is an investment banker. So
Well, also, in a capitalist country, you take out your opponents. That's what we do here. In China, they actually took a very communistic approach to...
Did they just kill them?
No, they invested in 150 other countries and raised up their economies.
Are you talking about imperialism?
What?
You're saying when taking on your opponents, you mean abroad?
No, I mean like in capitalism, in
Yeah.
actual capitalism, like here,
Yeah.
the whole point is like you get rid of your opponents.
Yeah.
Whereas in China, they took a communistic approach where
Uh-huh.
they invested in 150 other countries.
Yeah.
And they basically were like, we're all coming up together.
Yeah. I think you're referring to imperialism.
Yeah. But I just mean like in straight capitalism, like
Yeah.
the whole point is to get rid of your competitors.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
like Meta
like
trying to
Monopoly.
get rid of like TikTok. You know what I mean? And that wasn't the approach. So thereby, China can't be a capitalistic country because they invested in other countries. Is what I'm saying.
Yeah. Yeah.
right.
You don't sound like a liberal at all, man. You
I'm
really
actually-
don't. Yeah.
I'm very liberal.
Have you guys been watching Stephen A. Smith or like Bill Maher and some of the things that these guys are saying, who are traditionally known as like, you know,
Oh, the moderate liberals or
Are they
whatever.
moderate liberals? I don't know what
But
they
I
are,
would
but
say
they
that
sound
more than
conservative
like,
to me now.
More than,
It's
like,
whoa.
more than like a progressive or anything, I just I need truth.
Yeah.
I need honest truth, and I need people to make their own opinions based off of truth and not propaganda.
Yeah.
That's what I feel like.
That's
if
the
I want to
hard
have an
part, though.
identifier, that's going to be the biggest component. Is I'm a
How would you define propaganda?
Well, how would you define truth?
Technically, I
how do you
mean,
know who's
in
telling,
that-
telling the truth?
I mean, in that conversation, propaganda is anything that has intent, technically.
Uh-huh.
But I mean, like misleading propaganda.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Misleading propaganda.
Anyway, yeah, so there's that. So whenever people say, well, China's only good because of capitalism and America sucks because of socialism, it's just a ridiculous thing to say. Anyway,
Melissa Chen again.
yeah, Melissa, before we get to this, I noticed, was it Saturday night, like late in the evening, suddenly TikTok went down.
Yeah.
And then like a day later, it sort of came back, right? And even TikTok said, what, thanks to Trump? Like, what was that on the app? And this Melissa Chen, you know, the special woman from last time who said, is this the new Ching Chong app about Red Book? Now she's saying, when did America First turn into China First? You know, with another great
Was it a Singapore?
take.
Isn't it a Singaporean app company? I just want to.
No,
I
the
want to know.
CEO is
was
Singaporean.
Okay, so all right, so it's a Chinese company and the CEO is Singaporean.
ByteDance is China
Right.
based.
But anyway, for now, you know, TikTok is around, sort of, it seems, but
No, it's banned.
oh, it's banned.
It's banned. It's banned as it's the same thing. Like think of it like banning cigarettes, right? Banning cigarettes doesn't mean that you're going to go into everyone's home and take away their last cigarettes. It means you can't buy it anymore. TikTok is no longer able to be downloaded, reinstalled, or anything in America.
So you can't take it off.
You can't get it off of the Apple Store. You can't get it off of the Google Store. It's
I
banned.
see.
It's actually banned.
So it only works if you already had it, but then you will
Right.
not get
so
any
like
updates.
a lot of people thought that when TikTok went dark, it was this like whole stunt and this PR thing, and it really bothers me that even the media is stating that because it's not. They went dark because it was taken off the app stores. So it was a stunt in a way. They were like, "Hey guys, this isn't just a thing. Like we're gonna go dark." So in that way, it might have been a stunt, but it wasn't like a stunt, as in like they're trying to like bend the knee to Trump or anything like that. I sincerely believe that it wasn't a type of a mini stunt in a way for them to be like, hey guys, this is real. Also, just like the same reason why Zuckerberg and all of them are there is because they're terrified that this person who goes around threatening things based off of how he's feeling in the moment, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Is going to do something negative to their company. And I feel like that's what Xu Chu was doing. I think he was like, because it's the same thing. If you have an egomaniacal boss, yeah, sometimes you're going to let them take your credit because you value your career. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like that's what Xu Chu was doing, was appeasing the megalomaniac.
Yeah.
Because unfortunately he holds the power of what can be done right now.
Right, but with the ban of TikTok, a lot of Americans have been going over to Little Red Book or Xiaohongshu, and here's some memes I've seen. People are really not buying the propaganda about China anymore. So me on Red Note saying Chinese pay $13K for brand new EVs that would be $60K here and need $7K in mods. Me on Red Note saying Chinese cities that make New York look like Omaha. Me seeing bullet trains that will take you anywhere in the country for hardly any money at all. Seeing food prices 1/3 of our own. Chinese people confused by the notion of credit scores and not being able to have things you can pay for. They don't look traumatized the way we do. That was the other thing. A lot of Americans, where they're asking them about their social credit thing, all the Chinese people are like, what are you talking about? We don't have that. So, I mean, that just shows you the level of brainwash that actually happens here when everyone in this country thinks that people there have this social credit system. And meanwhile, when you actually ask them, they're like, what are you talking about? So there's that. Here's another tweet. Americans on Xiaohongshu are finding out the definition of human rights in China. Affordable groceries, inexpensive restaurants, low rents, free and subsidized healthcare, debt-free college education, crime-free cities, world-class infrastructure. And the American is shown kind of unhappy, saying, oh my God, everything my government told me about China is a lie. And the Chinese girl says, oh my God, everything my government told me about the U.S. is true.
Yeah, but that's not true either, though. Because there are Chinese people being like, what do you mean you need 2 jobs? Like, what do you mean you guys don't have healthcare? Like, what do you mean? Like, they're finding out stuff too, which I think kind of proves, because like America, we're told that like China is such an evil power. They're spreading anti-American sentiment. And like, I think this is proving that like the average Chinese person doesn't know shit. They definitely don't know anything negative about America. You know what I mean? So I feel like there is a little bit of that, because I've seen videos from like boomers and Gen X people going on and being like, so one day on Xiaohongshu, and I realized that the America has been lying to us about China our whole lives. And I was like, that's crazy.
That's insane.
I was like, someone that looks like you is saying that? I was like, that's crazy.
That was the craziest thing, to see all these like old white boomer guys who look like Trumpers. They're like, the government's been lying to us. It's fucking bullshit.
Dude, and one of them, I don't know if you guys saw it, one of them translated Xiaohongshu's like CG, their community guidelines into English. And he was blown away by it. He's like, yeah, sure, it has all the same stuff too. But he's like, this is how I know that this has been propaganda. He goes, in the Xiaohongshu app, he's like, the community guidelines are like, please be considerate that not everyone might have the same amount of money as you. So please don't go around flaunting your wealth. If you have it, please be, considerate. Make sure that you're not using filters so that you're not deceiving people, because it can make them feel bad about themselves. It was like all of these like empathetic, humane rules. And people were like, wait, so this is our enemy?
Yeah.
This is number one enemy?
Yeah.
Right.
It's kind of hilarious.
Yeah. And we got to get on Xiangyu real quick, but let me just go through this real quick. Here's another thing. We hear about the Chinese have been, bad to the Uyghur people, oppressing them. Now, Americans just can go on Xiaohongshu and talk to Uyghurs directly. So this is Kapi Guli, a Beijing-based Uyghur lawyer in China. She's one of the many Uyghurs that Americans and foreigners can now interact with. So she's just talking, and...
Hello, TikTok refugees. I'm Uyghur lawyer based in Beijing. Many people think I don't look like a typical Chinese person. But actually, China has 56 ethnic groups. Every group has its own special vibe. Today, let me introduce my hometown, Xinjiang.
It's like Mongolia.
It's close. Actually.
Close, right?
Close, but not.
It looks like it.
But
Except
anyway,
for the blue seas. It was like,
it's not what you'd expect, right? Yeah, so...
Hey, why don't we go there? Let's go over there. Party
So
over
anyway,
there.
yeah, that's if you guys got questions and you're worried about the Uyghur people there, even though you don't care about Palestinians, you can go on Red Note and talk to the Uyghur people there, and tell them how they're wrong and how they're just government trolls or something, right? So, okay, check that out. And sorry, that's all we have time for this. We're going to come right back with Xiangyu,
Let's go.
the rapper. All right, we're back with Ktown Social Club, and joining us all the way from Taipei, Taiwan, province of China, I guess, is Xiangyu. Welcome to the show, Xiangyu.
Hello, you guys. Thank you very much for having me on. I know you've wanted me on for a while, but
Yes.
All right,
finally glad I
and,
could finally make it.
Yeah, and we're not fully technically set up, so I'm going to leave right now. But David, Young, and Ed are going to be here with you. I'd love to talk to you, Xiangyu. And yeah, hope you guys have fun.
All right.
All right, you go ahead, David.
All right. I guess I'm the substitute host for now, I guess, for this section. Okay, cool. Well, for the viewers who have never seen you or your work before, do you want to give us a quick introduction?
Wait, sorry?
Do you want to give us a quick introduction for those who may have not seen your content before?
So my name is Xiangyu. Right now I live in Taiwan. I am a host of a show called Straight Talk with Xiangyu, where the tagline is I give a deep dive into Taiwan, mainland China, cross-strait relations, and beyond from a perspective not typically covered by mainstream media. I am also a rapper over here in Taiwan, though I haven't been active in a while publicly. I'm working on my album right now. And I just a lot of information about Taiwan is not very well covered by Western media, and I understand why. It's a small island, it's not that significant. But whenever things are covered, things are so one-sided or incomplete, where I feel like it's almost better if it's not covered, because it leaves people with a very fragmented understanding. So where I come in is I try to fill in the gaps. That's kind of my little niche online that I found. So
is your show English then?
Wait, sorry, your sound is a little muffled.
Is the sound is the show in English, or is it
the show's in English.
Oh, okay, cool. Yeah, that makes sense.
Awesome. Okay, cool. Well, we know that some big things happened in Taiwan just over the course of past couple days, which it was massive in scale, but not mentioned at all, at least in Western media.
Yeah, I think we were too busy, preoccupied with our own debacle over here.
Yes.
Yeah.
So can you walk us through what happened?
Yes, take us through.
So I think that part of it is the timing with a lot of things going on. I know out there in LA, there's been some pretty big fires, and I hope all of your families are safe, and all of your loved ones and friends and all that. So I understand why this isn't really covered right now by Western mainstream media, just with so much stuff going on. It's like, why should Americans care about what's going on in Taiwan? But my counter question is, if there's nothing to hide, why is it being hidden from the people? Like, so the way I understand it is, the more they're trying to hide this reality from the people in the world, the more that people should be made aware of it and make their own informed opinions should they want to follow it. So on January 11th, there was a protest attended by approximately 150,000 people. That's pretty huge for Taiwan, because the population of Taiwan is just a little bit smaller than the population of North Korea. So North Korea is 25 million. Taiwan's like between 23 and 24 million. And the thing is, the protesters were mostly protesting against what they felt was the miscarriage of justice and increasing government overreach by the incumbent party, which is the Democratic Progressive Party, the DPP. And if you have any questions about the origins of this party or what they stand for, I can get into that a little bit. But basically, the ruling party of Taiwan ever since 2016 has been the Democratic Progressive Party. From 2016 to 2024, they held the majority of the parliament. But now, ever since 2024, they still hold on to the leadership, the so-called presidency, but the parliament's in the hands of the opposition right now. It's kind of like the situation in Korea where Yoon Suk-yeol is the president, but the parliament is held by the opposition, and now he's telling everybody that the opposition is controlled by North Korea. Over here, we're hearing the ruling party say, oh, the opposition over here is secretly serving the CPC.
So does the opposition traditionally have ties with the CPC?
Well, the opposition right now is split. So the DPP has 51 seats in parliament out of 113. So 51 out of 113 is not half. The KMT, the Kuomintang, the main opposition party, has 52 seats. So it's also not half. But then there's the third party. The third party is the Taiwan People's Party, which is a new party formed in, I believe, 2018 or 2019 by the former mayor of Taipei City, this guy.
Oh wow.
Oh,
Hey, he kind of looks like
Ko-and-sub.
Lee Jae-myung, you know,
He,
the Korean dude.
And the reason why his party is significant is because with 52 versus 51, neither are over half. His party has 8 people in parliament, which means let's assume the 51 and 52 always vote differently 100% of the time.
They're the swing.
That means those 8 seats decide like how votes go. They're the tiebreaker. So, 8 out of 113 is not significant, but in this case, it really shows the power of a third party in a liberal democracy. And right now they are, because the DPP is the incumbent party and they are in parliament, they feel their job is to, have a check on the ruling party and monitor it. The way, the way people talk about liberal democracy, it's like we have checks and balances. We have no single branch of government has like full power. So that's their perspective. They're like, we're going to hold the DPP accountable. So of course, effectively, that means they're voting in line with the KMT. Now, your question is, do they have ties with the CPC? The TPP, this guy, the Taiwan People's Party, does not have historic ties with the Communist Party of China. I would say it does not really have historical ties with Taiwan because it is a very young party. And I think the important thing for a young party to do is to set roots in the area that it's supposed to serve. Now, the Kuomintang does have ties with the CPC because they fought a civil war on the mainland. They've had history of fighting. They've had history of working together, having their united front against the Japanese during the war of resistance against Japanese imperialism. And for the longest time, Taiwan was a single party dictatorship and that was in charge by them. So then whenever the communists on the mainland wanted to work with Taiwan, the KMT was the go-to people to talk to. I mean, now on the surface from 1949 until the 1980s, it was, where there's no contact, there's no capitulation and all that. But behind the scenes, they were kind of relaying messages together through mutual friends like overseas Chinese. So that's kind of the history between the KMT and the CPC. The KMT historically has been anti-communist, but nowadays the media likes to portray them as pro-China. And there is some truth to it because a lot of their supporters do business on the Chinese mainland. So they are interested in maintaining a certain level of stability between the Chinese mainland and Taiwan. I know there isn't as much of a parallel with Korea because, between North and South Korea, you don't have like millions of South Koreans working and living in North Korea all the time. You had Kaesong for a while,
Right.
where you had factories run by South Korean businessmen employing North Korean workers, but that's like a very small scale compared to what goes on between the two sides of the Taiwan Strait and the extent of our relations. But I will say, for people who don't understand, because I assume a lot of your viewers are more familiar with Korean politics, is the relations between Taiwan and the Chinese mainland are similar to North and South Korea in the sense that the Republic of Korea does not recognize the Democratic People's Republic of Korea. They recognize, in the books, North Korea is a part of the Republic of Korea. And the other way was true until North Korea decided last year that they don't want reunification anymore. But in the past, in the books of North Korea, in the Democratic People's Republic of Korea, South Korea is also a part of the DPRK, just not under their control. So that's kind of the situation between Taiwan and the Chinese mainland. But the thing is, the ruling party does not like the claim that the Chinese mainland is a part of the so-called Republic of China because ideologically, they want to shift towards Taiwan separatism. They won't go all the way, but that's kind of their rhetoric. That's their support base. So that's where a lot of the anti-China smearing comes from.
It's like very similar to Korean politics, how some factions are aligned with the socialist parties, and some are completely distancing themselves, and they'll use it as a kind of propaganda to say, "Hey, you know what? They're from there," to smear or to slander them, right?
Yeah. Okay. So then, how would you categorize the political orientation of the protests that you mentioned.
Yeah, what happened?
Yeah, would you call it like pro-China? Because I'm sure there would be some who would call it that, right? Pro-China.
That's a very good question. I would say when it comes to these cross-strait issues, most of the protesters, a lot of the protesters are former DPP supporters. I think the main focus of the protest is not the broader politics. It's more about the miscarriage of justice. And I will get into the Ko-Wen-Ze case and why people think it's political warfare. They think it's lawfare. They think it's political spectacle. They don't think it's justice. It's more about that because
Okay.
people in Taiwan feel like a lot of people in Taiwan feel like our democracy is being eroded away. And ironically, by the very party that once fought for liberal democracy in Taiwan, because the Democratic Progressive Party came from the liberal opposition against the liberal opposition movement against the Kuomintang, the KMT.
Right.
So, but now that they're in charge, it's like they want to maintain an iron grip over their power, especially as they're losing popularity and it's slipping. 2016, they won with the landslide, and then 2020, they were on the verge of losing, but then the Hong Kong riots happened. So then the media, they kind of went the fear-mongering route saying, if you guys vote for KMT, that means closer integration with the Chinese mainland will be like Hong Kong. It'll be as chaotic. They'll do this to us. So that's how they secured their vote in 2020. But 2024, they really didn't have much going for them. Lai Ching-te, the current leader, he won the election with only 40% of the vote. And if you count the people who abstained from voting, he won with less than 30%. So he's not a very popular leader, and he doesn't have parliament. And the issue with Lai Ching-te is he does not have experience running government that's dominated by the opposition, because when he was the mayor of Tainan City, that was a very pro-DPP city. He never had to worry about opposition. He didn't have to deal with opposition. Whatever he said went. But now it's like, okay, he's the leader. He's not very popular. The opposition dominates the parliament. There's a certain way that you have to capitulate with them and work with them. And in the meantime, you have to, regain the public's trust. You have to hope for better elections in 2026 and 2028. But instead, the route he's going is, okay, we're going to try to lock this guy up. and we're going to try to bury his political party, because the political party is young, and it was formed around his popularity as Taipei City mayor, because the way he positioned himself was, we are sick of the party duopoly. We need a third way out. We need something that works for the people. So it was very popular among the youth. And I mean, he got 8 seats in parliament, and as I clearly outlined, it's a very important swing block. So now the DPP is like, if we bury that party, then we can beat the KMT. Because the thing is, if the TPP and KMT decide to work more closely, the DPP is going to be defeated in an election. In 2024, these two parties were supposed to work together and run on a joint ticket, with the KMT being the so-called presidential candidate and this guy being the vice presidential candidate. But that fell through. So, but then the thing is, that fell through, but then it also marked the beginning of the two parties kind of working together in a sort of de facto united front against the KMT. And that's what the DPP fears.
How long has the TPP been around? Like, when did the third party when did that get introduced?
6 years now, right? You said
Oh, really?
2018.
So it's
It's a
pretty
very
new.
young party.
Okay, I didn't hear that part, sorry.
Hey, what's the political climate in Taiwan? I'm curious because when you see like Korea, for example, there's a lot of kids that believe in democracy and they want a democracy, but at the same time, they also believe in sort of a socialist system where the government has a lot of intervention and a lot of responsibility in taking care of all the citizens and universal health care. Well, what's the climate like in Taiwan? What do you generally see amongst the youth? Like, what kind of a government are they in support of?
I think you call it socialism, but I think if we move back a little bit and just get out of this like 20th century or 21st century mindset and go back further, I think it really goes back to Confucian values. You're supposed to treat your parents a certain way, and they have to meet up. They have to live up to certain responsibilities, and the relationship between the people and the government is pretty similar as well, where it's like, okay, you are loyal to your government, you are a loyal patriot, but in return, the government maintains a certain level of social harmony and makes sure that people's livelihoods can be ensured. And I think across all political parties in Taiwan, that is the case. It's just they have different ideas of how that is reached. So when it comes to things like a single-payer healthcare in Taiwan, it's not controversial at all. Everybody is basically on board, except for like some fringe elements or some, I guess, some corporations that feel like they could make more money if there's other solutions. But if you ask anybody in the streets, they're pretty happy with the national healthcare system that we have, national health insurance.
For everything, like
single payer
welfare,
and all
everything
that.
seems
So
to be okay. But
I would say in America, if you try to apply it by American standards, you might say that there are some left leanings within the overall in Taiwan. But at the same time, none of the major parties are very anti like US intervention. And like if we look at, let's say, like global left wing, I think the most important thing is not like this healthcare stuff. That's pretty inconsequential in the terms of global geopolitics. But hegemony versus counter hegemony, Western dominance, Eastern resistance, people are either neutral or they're pro-US over here. There's not really that much pro like CPC on the ground like as of yet. I think a lot of people still have this wait and see attitude. And I think people's opinions on that will sway when the geopolitical relations kind of unravel over the next few decades, like how well the U.S. maintains its hegemonic position in the world as a global superpower, or how the Chinese mainland rises as a counter hegemony. And yeah, that's kind of
it's like Korea.
attitudes over here.
Whoever becomes more powerful, I guess we'll swing that way.
Also, I feel like around the rest of the world, the word socialist or socialism isn't as dirty of a word as we're propaganda to believe in.
I agree.
In America.
I agree.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I
So
think,
you know the three principles of the people. So the founder of the Republic of China, Sun Yat-sen, he has his ideology. In English, it's translated to the three principles of the people. In Chinese, it's 三民主义. So in Korean, it'll be 三民主义.
Yeah, 主义, yeah.
三民is a three means. So
Yeah.
just get rid of the
民族
inflection.
like 민족 in Korean.
Yeah.
So 민족, so that's the nation. 民权 in Korean would be 民권. So the rights of the people. I guess that would be like democracy.
Right.
And the third one, in Chinese, it's 民生. In Korean, it'd be 民生. So that'd be like the people's livelihood. And you can interpret the people's livelihood as socialism almost.
Yeah.
Right. If the government is expected to play a role in the livelihood.
Well, I mean, it's just like a weird concept, right? Because like when you're younger and you're in school, you expect the school to take care of all the kids. If someone's sick,
Yeah.
you go to the school nurse. If
Right,
they can't
right.
eat, they get a school lunch. Why is it that that's obviously the right thing to do, but all of a sudden you become an adult and they're like, no. Which is funny because like even in America we're like, oh, socialism is so bad. It's like, what do you mean? We're already paying for each other's healthcare. It's called GoFundMe. It's just it should be called the U.S. government. You know what I mean? Like we already are doing socialistic shit. It just should be coming from the government, not from us.
Okay.
Technically, it would come from us.
So
'cause we're
I
funded.
think we have a lot of good topics to discussion. I think we have many questions that we want to ask you while we have you on here. So I'd like to change gears here. Especially while we have Ed here, especially as well. What are your thoughts on? I mean, I'm not sure if you've been following like Red Note in the U.S.
Oh, okay. Where's this going?
Right? I mean, we have Ed here who is an influencer here, right? So he was very heavily impacted by the whole TikTok thing. He has a very good impression of Red Note so far, right?
Yeah.
I mean, as an outsider, looking into U.S., like American people talking to Chinese people, like regular people for the first time directly. I mean, what does it look like to you? I mean, you like seeing it? Like what are your impressions?
I think it's pretty interesting because I think you have these Chinese users because the user base for Red Note is changing because of this influx. Before it was kind of like the shitlib app of like well-off urban dwellers in China that use the app.
Really?
like if you want to look at like rural people, just like I guess the Chinese equivalent of rednecks, you would use Kuaishou. And like Douyin, the actual Chinese version of TikTok is a little bit more like universal. Everyone uses it. So then it was like 5 years ago, I downloaded the app, I set up an account, and I was immediately bored because it was just like people sharing like fashion trends and some like recipes and stuff. Well, the recipe stuff's interesting, but there was just too much like other stuff that I wasn't too interested in. So I just kind of forgot about it. But then all of a sudden they're like, there's this Chinese app called Red Note and TikTok is banned, so we're gonna migrate there. So I was like, I wonder how this will play out. And now you have these Chinese people going, wow, everything our government said about America is correct. We used to not believe them, but now we do. Because they're seeing people talking about how they work multiple jobs and and still can't afford healthcare because healthcare is so prohibitively expensive for a lot of people.
$7,000 for an MRI.
Because, in some coastal areas of China where a lot of immigrants come from, they have these immigration agencies. And those immigration agencies, like it works in their favor if they paint a rosy picture of America. So you have a lot of people thinking that America has very good social benefits and how like everything is like really cheap or free, or like how if you just work 30 hours a week, you can afford a
30.
decent house with, 2 cars or whatever.
Yeah, like
there's a
in
lot of,
like-
because
In the desert.
China's a
Like
big
the
country, 1.3
1930s.
billion people. There's people of varying education levels, and some people just aren't very in tune with the actual news coming from the ground in America. And this, to them, is like first exposure to just Americans straight from the source. Because some
Right.
of them might have relatives that immigrated, but then you guys are children of immigrants or immigrants yourself. When you guys have, like, God forbid, if you guys go through hard times, you probably wouldn't want your relatives back in Korea to know about it, right?
Right.
You just like tough it out and then try to do well for yourself and then just
They sent
let
me
them know
money.
you're fine.
Right.
So I think this is the first time they're like, and now they're seeing like mainstream Americans, not like, immigrants or children of immigrants saying a lot of these things. And to them, it's like, wow. But and Americans at the same time, it's like, because, every time you see China in the news, it's like gray filter. It looks really unfriendly. It looks really dystopian. And now they're seeing just people taking videos of their everyday lives, and they're just like, wow, it's not the shithole that I thought it that I thought it was. It's just regular people living regular lives with regular concerns. They want this more or less the same things that we do. They want a society that works. They want to be able to make more money to provide for their families. They want their children to go to decent schools and have better opportunities than they did. So it's like, wow, it's kind of like ping pong diplomacy all over again. It's like, hey, the American and Chinese peoples don't need to be at odds with one another. Maybe we as Americans should look at our government and ask why the richest country in the world cannot provide some of the things that we see the Chinese people having, like affordable groceries or affordable healthcare.
Right.
But even the homeless are kind of overweight here in America. That is one thing going for it.
What do you mean?
The homeless people, even the poor people,
Yeah.
are overweight when you look at it.
Oh, that's
So
what
yeah,
you're saying.
America is one country that gets a lot of bad food to eat, right? It circulates a lot of that stuff, right?
So, in terms of
We also don't know if they have like thyroid issues or something that could be like not diet related.
That's okay.
I
That's true.
personally
There's
haven't
a lot
seen
of
a lot of like
Yeah,
too
I
many
don't
overweight
know.
homeless
I've
folks.
seen too many
Yeah,
homeless.
but
overweight.
anyways,
I've seen a lot.
I mean, sure they exist.
so we wanted to ask you. So on the note of like Americans learning more about China and dispelling a lot of things that we've heard about China, we were hoping if you can shed some insight on Tiananmen Square, because that's like number one thing that Americans say, right?
Dun, dun.
Okay.
Tiananmen Square, Tiananmen Square, and
By Tiananmen Square, I mean, I think you mean the June 4th incident in 1989.
yeah,
Massacre.
not the actual place, obviously, but like
No,
yeah,
tell us
yeah,
about
yeah.
the place.
tell us, yeah.
How many square feet is it?
I think this ties in with our episode pretty well because Tiananmen Square, that was a pretty big protest and it made the news all over. It was really significant. But this protest that we recently had in Taiwan, and I want to get later on, I want to get into what sparked the protests, but it kind of shows a different attitude. Because like imagine if in Beijing today, like just 70,000 people came out, not even 150,000, just 70,000 came out to protest against the government. That would be major news for nonstop for like 3 weeks in America. Now Tiananmen Square, it's a very awkward time because you had like the reforms and opening up, and that was a very awkward time because at that point a lot of socialist countries are failing.
True.
And you look at America, you look at Europe, they're doing, on the surface, they're doing pretty well. So in a lot of Chinese people's minds, it's like, hey, what we had isn't working. We have reforms. It's not fast enough. We need something that works. We need like this Western style democracy. So among the students, there were those people. There were also some people who felt that the reforms kind of left them behind. So there's all sorts of people in the crowd. But then, of course, you had, the people like Nancy Pelosi and some shady, glowy figures from the U.S. trying to take advantage of the situation. So for 45 days, people think the Tiananmen Square incident, they think of it as a one-day ordeal, right?
Right.
Yeah, they do.
Right.
But that was the 45th day of the protests, like when the tanks rolled in. That was the 45th day. Now, imagine if in America, people occupied Capitol Hill and would not disperse for 45 days. The students were like, okay, student leaders like Kaishi, they'd be like, oh, we want you guys to say that this is a patriotic student movement. Okay, the government gave them that concession. They want this, we want this, we want this. The government kept on working with them and saying, okay, we'll give in to your demands. Day 45 comes around and they're like, government's like, hey, you guys need to disperse, man. We got stuff to do. But then the students would not disperse. And you got like students from all over the country pouring in and still going. And they're like, how can we disperse? You got people just coming in constantly. That would disappoint them. And then you got like you got the American embassy over there providing kids with Coca-Cola. Now in 1989, drinking Coca-Cola was a big deal. It's not like everyone could just drink it whenever they wanted. So they're like, hey, we have this sweet drink from America. We want to stay here. So they're like, okay, you guys got to disperse. So they sent in the cops. Some of I don't want to paint all of the demonstrators as like violent or whatever, but those elements were in the crowds. Well, they beat them. They burned them alive. They killed them. They did that with the military too. So, I mean, you try burning cops alive in any country, it's going to spark a equal and opposite reaction from the government. So that's when things got violent. They sent the tanks in. They dispersed the crowd from the square. Now, when they say there was no massacre on the square, that actually is true. You can look at the leaked documents from various diplomats and journalists working on there. There was no massacre on the square. What happened was after the dispersion, there was fighting going on between demonstrators and the authorities in the streets surrounding the square, and there was a death toll. Now, the actual number of deaths we do not know. Like, we don't have a agreed upon number, but what we do know is that the number of deaths on both sides were about the same. So it doesn't seem to me like it was a massacre, more like an armed struggle between various factions within the country.
So this is another side of the story, that how it's told. The world press wanted to make it seem like the Chinese government was very oppressive and just
came in and just
put their
killed
foot
everyone.
down on it, but this was definitely not the case, according to your report. Wow,
I remember I did read about two things very clearly. One was that, like exactly you said, they sent policemen in, and I remember they burned them alive. Like I don't know if it was one person or multiple, but I do remember they sent unarmed authorities into the protesters. They were killed. They were killed. And I also remember that one of the student leaders were flown out in a U.S. helicopter.
So the U.S.
Wait,
is like trying to help.
Sorry,
the
you're a little
students.
bit this sounds a little bit muffled. I didn't catch all of that.
Oh, so I read that one of the student leaders was flown out with a U.S. helicopter, government helicopter.
A lot of them ended up in the U.S. Leaving through Hong Kong. Keep in mind, back then Hong Kong was still a British colony. So I don't know about the helicopter thing, but I know a lot of student leaders, including Cai Ling, ended up in the U.S. And you had student leaders like Wang Dan and Kaishi ending up in Taiwan. So yeah, they just kind of there's that video of Cai Ling saying hey, our goal is we need bloodshed so then we can invoke the sympathy of the people in the world. You know, that's pretty dark. Imagine imagine a U.S. protest, like imagine, and you know, there was a big movement in America in 2020. Now we may have different opinions about it and who was behind it, but imagine that the leaders of those 2020 George Floyd protests were like, hey, we need to make sure that some of the people marching on the streets get killed by the police so people around the world will pay more attention. That's pretty morbid. That's pretty irresponsible as a leader of any sort of movement. But there were certainly elements among the student demonstrators.
You mentioned
Tiananmen
Nancy
Square
Pelosi,
that had that mentality.
So you're saying when Americans decided to loot businesses, that was in comparison nothing.
Yeah.
But, you know, common name, Nancy Pelosi. I hear that name a lot, you know, when it comes to protests and trying to take advantage of a situation. It's Nancy Pelosi all the time. It's like, oh.
She's good at taking advantage of things. That's why, if you know, to all the viewers over here, I'm not a stock expert, but if you want to make money, just do whatever she does.
There's an app.
Right, there's an app that follows
There's
her,
an app.
right?
Oh, really?
No. It's not just. There's an app now that allows you to just pick whichever politician you
portfolio?
want.
Oh,
And
what?
it'll just mimic their portfolio. So when they sell, yours will sell.
No
And
way.
when
Are
they
you
buy
serious?
something, yours
Dude,
will
that
buy
is so
something.
sick, dude. What is this
That's
app called?
comedic.
I forget, but I have it snapshot.
That
on
is
my phone.
comedic.
Thank you.
Okay.
Let me know.
In 10 years, we're going to regret not doing that.
Yeah. A trend that I'm noticing with China is if, like, for example, I feel like the same thing with Hong Kong, because I remember when around the same time when Hong Kong was happening, Catalonia in Spain were having the same protests. Catalonia wanted to secede from Spain.
That was a
and-
little before Hong Kong.
Oh, it was a little before Hong Kong? Okay.
Yeah, I
But-
think Catalonia was like 2017 or 2018. Hong Kong was 2019.
Okay. But I remember Spain also sent in government troops to Catalonia. I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right, by the way. But anyways, my point is, I feel like oftentimes China will do what any government will do, aside from a moral judgment of good or bad, right? Like
Yeah.
what a rational government authority would react or do.
I mean, even when we had the riots in 2020, we sent in the National Guard everywhere. Granted, there weren't tanks,
Right.
But you know, we did send in our troops. You know,
Right.
Oh, so you
There
believe
were-
there were riots?
Well, you know, if
You
if,
think-
if the
I mean,
BLM protests
there were more than protests. You agree?
Yeah, I've talked about it on the show before.
Oh, I didn't watch that
I was
part.
there when it happened
Oh,
on Fairfax,
good.
and I watched as non-black white people who were cops went around breaking windows.
Oh,
Yes.
is that what
I saw
happened? Oh, yeah.
videos
I
of that
watched
too.
it happen.
They were trying to. They were.
And then I watched as like white people in BMWs drove up, went into loot, got in the cars as the media was like, these black people are riding. I was like, that's weird because I took footage of all of it and
Yeah.
I've seen nothing but white people. Were black people there? Yes. But the people who were instigating, they were white.
Yeah.
Really?
Yes. I have footage.
Do you
of
think that's like
it.
the
I have
FBI
footage of
or
it.
like they're
I was
people that
literally,
are-
my business was there. I was there as I watched it happen. I was there after it ended because I didn't leave until like 4:00 in the morning.
Do you think this was like something that was kind of set up, or as some people claim, or do you think this
I
is
don't know
just?
who set it up, but it for sure was not the black protesters. I watched it. I watched as white people, white guys, got behind a dumpster and started throwing Molotov cocktails at police cars.
Yeah.
It was not the black people. I watched it. I filmed it.
Yeah. And
Who
on,
are these
and
guys?
on
Is
your
it
note
is that the
about-
Antifa, or what are these like? Or are the people pointing towards like conservative, or is that
Well,
was there an argument that was out there?
It could be anything. But
Yeah.
on your point about how there were no tanks
Yeah.
during the BLM protests,
Oh, yeah.
if,
I mean, yeah.
like he said, if protesters occupied, right,
Uh-huh.
like a massive government like property for 45 days.
Yeah, but like
Yeah.
we didn't occupy a government place, but remember Occupy Wall Street did happen. That lasted for almost 2 months.
right.
We didn't send anyone there.
Well, because we,
But they also didn't go around killing cops. So like I don't you know what I mean? So it's not really an apples to apples, you
Yeah.
know? But I think in America, I think that's where our minds go. It's like, well, we've done similar things.
Right.
We didn't sell in tanks.
Yeah.
You know, people didn't die by the hundreds, you know,
Yeah.
and I think that's where American mindset is.
Yeah.
And I feel like that's why it's really easy to buy into the whatever propaganda side
Right.
of Tiananmen Square that we tell,
okay.
you know?
Okay.
So much propaganda. I don't know what's propaganda and what's fact.
Well,
I'll
that's
just
that's
tell you
the
that
point,
right now.
right?
Yeah, it's just
they
like
confuse
whoa.
you so much that people do that. They're like, I don't know what's real anymore. I'm just going to shut down.
Right.
And I think that's when it's actually more imperative that you keep going and look for the truth, right?
Right.
I'm just gonna join him.
Okay,
That's
so
right.
our
Illuminati.
final topic. You were in Korea during the whole climax of Yoon's fiasco.
Oh, really?
Right? You're in South Korea.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit about your experience?
Yeah, what'd you see? What was
what
it
you
like?
see, what you hear.
What did you witness? What are your thoughts too?
Did you see the Hershey Kisses?
So
Bad wife?
I wasn't there during the initial protests, but when I was there, they were it was because I think the number of people in parliament in the opposition party wasn't enough to get over a certain threshold, so they were pressuring people in Yoon Suk-yeol's party to vote to have him. I think to have him impeached, right?
Right. People power.
So I was like, I was at the Hyundai department store, which is just a few blocks away from the National Assembly.
Yeah.
So I was like, I'm just gonna go
okay.
check it out
Yeah.
afterwards, cause So then I went over there, and as soon as I got to the subway station, it was like walking like this.
Yeah.
And they were even in the subway station before I wasn't even on the street yet. They were just screaming,
right? Yeah.
and they're Yoon Suk-yeol을 체포하라. They were doing that, and
Arrest
people were like
Yoon
trying to
Suk-yeol.
get out there. I get out there, and then
Yeah.
there were some speeches. I mean, I couldn't see the people giving the speeches, but there were like big screens outside where you could hear them talk.
Right.
And people were cheering when they I guess when the speeches got to certain places, said some things that they agreed with, and then it got to a point where they were about to do the vote, and everybody in the crowd started chanting 투표해, 투표해.
Oh wow.
Like vote.
Yeah.
So that was, I didn't really quite understand the situation. I'm not too familiar with like South Korea's internal politics, but it seemed to me like the crowd was very diverse. You had like really old people who probably have like memories of like Japanese occupation. You also had like young people there, like college students, and there was also I also saw this one like really weird group of like anime weebs with this giant anime flag. I don't know what they were about, but
Weird.
I guess those people care about politics too. So I don't know enough to really judge. It seemed like very well coordinated, and I saw some similarities with the protest that happened in Taipei on January 11th in the sense that there also were music performers. There were also like big screens that broadcasted the speeches to people in the crowd that were far away from the stage. But I do want to get into, if you guys don't mind, why the protest happened and why people feel like that democracy is being eroded away, because I think that's very interesting. And I don't know if this kind of stuff happens in Korea. I know it probably happens in America, and there's a term for it called lawfare. So if you guys don't mind, after
Yes,
we discuss
please.
this, maybe
We
talk
have-
about that a little bit
We
later.
have, I believe, like 2 minutes left. So yes, I was actually gonna ask you because I remember that was the first thing you opened with, was that you said justice was not carried out. So yeah, can you quickly? We have like 2 minutes left. Do you think you can?
Elaborate on that.
Yeah, give us a rundown of what happened.
Yeah. Like I said, this guy,
Right.
Koenzo, they want to bury him. So what they did was they decided to hit him with charges of bribery, profiteering, embezzlement, and breach of trust in relation to a development project in Taipei, from which is done by a development company called Core Pacific Development. Now, they accused him of accepting 2 bribes. The first is 2.1 million new Taiwan dollars, and the second one is 15 million new Taiwan dollars. But the thing is, there's no evidence that he took these bribes. If you're looking at corruption and bribes and all that stuff, you need to look for cash flow evidence, or you need to find the cash, right? The evidence they found was in 2020, 7 people associated with Core Pacific made political contributions of 300,000 each, totaling to 2.1 million to Koenjo's political party. But that's a donation to a political
donation, yeah.
party. It's a political contribution. It was registered in the books. But they're just claiming, Koenjo must have taken the money because it's his political party, without any proof. The second evidence they have was the chairman of Core Pacific. his name is Shen Qingjing. He withdrew 16 million new Taiwan dollars from his bank, and then in the indictment, I shit you not, it says at some time and place between October 19th and November 1st of 2022, Cohenzo received 15 million in cash from Shen Qingjing. But the thing is, that's such a huge range between the 19th and the 1st. They don't have a specific time and place. And their proof was an Excel document found on this guy's computer. They were like, oh, well, there's a line in it that says November 1st, Shen, and 1500, because 15 million in Chinese is 1500, 10,000, just like in Korean. So, yeah, that's their evidence against him. And the very messed up thing is the indictment, that's like nearly 200 pages, is almost word for word exactly the same as investigative reports from a tabloid that came out before the indictment. And people were naturally questioning where did the tabloid get their sources from. But then the Taipei District Prosecutor's Office is just like, we don't need to look into it because we know for a fact they didn't get information from us. So that's a potential breach of, the non-disclosure during an ongoing investigation. People are suspecting that, hey, what if the DPP is just directly working with the Taipei District Prosecutor's Office and the media to use the media to shape public opinion, and then to use the courts to lock this guy up? Because if he's found guilty of all these charges, even just the first embezzlement charge alone, that's 15 years in prison. If he's guilty of all four, that's like over 28 years, like 28 years and 6 or 7 months or something like that. So they're really trying to bury the third party by throwing this guy in jail. So that's I don't know. You be the judge. Given what I just said, does that sound
the Taiwanese
like,
deep state?
I don't know if
dude.
this guy embezzled or not, but I'm just saying if you want to get him for embezzlement, you need to find better evidence.
So the takeaway is that 3-party better than 2-party, right? Helps keep the balance and
But
checks
they're always
in
trying
place.
they're always trying to bury, the deep state is always trying to bury that third party.
Yeah.
That makes sense. Yeah. Well,
Yeah.
What you said makes sense.
The Green Party guy that we had here a couple months ago, he said the same thing too. He said that we need more than a 2-party system to keep things accountable, because it's very clear in America they're working together.
It's kind of like how in America, if you say you want to vote third party, the Democrats are always like, "Oh, that means you're a little fascist. You're working with Trump.
Yep.
You're taking votes away from us. It's going to be your fault if the big bad orange man wins." The DPP is basically doing the same thing to all TPP supporters.
In their defense, our third parties here haven't been great.
Joe Stein was pretty sick.
The deep state buries them.
I do have one more question before you go, though. As someone who is and knows about the Chinese government better, what is your opinion that ByteDance would ever allow TikTok to be bought out by Meta, let alone transfer their servers to Meta?
To Meta?
I think the issue is not really the servers. I think it's the algorithm. TikTok has, from what I hear, a pretty advanced algorithm that is unmatched by Meta or what is it, or X.
But
I
like
think that's what they're after, they're forcing that tech transfer.
After that like 12-hour blackout, when TikTok came back, it was like TikTok started running rife with all this misinformation, and a lot of the conspiracies swirled around like, oh, it went dark for 12 hours because they were transferring to Meta. Zuckerberg bought it, and they did it all secretly. And I literally was like, that's literally illegal. That's called breaking antitrust law. So your conspiracies are stupid. But yeah, I'm asking that question because that's like the main conspiracy that's going around in America right now, because we're dumb.
We are.
Sorry, I didn't catch all of that. I heard 2 people talking at the same time. Someone backstage, I think. So sorry.
Yeah, I was just saying that it's not that important, but I was just saying that was the main conspiracy that was happening after TikTok went dark, was that people were conspiring that, it went dark because there was a backdoor deal and Zuckerberg bought TikTok and they were transferring servers. So I know it's not true. I've already disproved it, but I just wanted to know from someone who knows better about the Chinese government.
I don't really know better about this particular topic. All I know is this year's off to a pretty interesting start already.
This is the truth.
That is true.
Elon bought it.
That is true.
That's
Okay.
not possible.
Cool. Well, thank you
Thanks
so
a lot,
much
man.
for joining us. Xiangyu, we hope to, do you wanna-
Yeah, thanks, Xiangyu, for joining us. I'm back now, wearing my MAGA hat from Young Kim.
Dark MAGA
I'm
hat.
looking for the Made in China tag. They must have taken it off, but anyway.
I mean, I would.
Yeah, thanks for the hat, and thanks, Xiangyu, for joining us and giving us your knowledge, and we hope to have you back on again.
Thank you guys very much for letting me onto your show to talk to more people about
What, Made in
what's
China?
Made in
what's going
China.
on.
Oh,
And
okay, right.
I want to give Michael, I want to give you a huge shout out. You've been a hero of my show for quite a long time. Behind the scenes, you're one of the upper level
wish I could hear
patrons.
him, but-
Hell
Without
yeah.
people like you,
He says you're a
it'll be difficult
hero,
for me
and
to do
he's
what
an
I do.
admirer of what you're doing.
Oh, he doesn't have an
Oh.
earpiece in, so he can't hear you. He said that as an upper level Patreon, you're a huge supporter of his show, and he thanks you.
Oh, right. Yeah.
Hell
Hey, no
yeah.
problem. I think you're a great person. You're doing great things for your people and for Asians and whatever. So thank you. Yeah. And thanks for your kind words. All right.
Awesome.
And we'll see you
Look
next
forward to coming
time,
back.
dude.
Thank you guys again.
Yeah,
All right,
thanks
buddy.
again. Bye.
Peace. Okay.
Cool.
Yeah, you're welcome.
And
Thanks a
that
lot.
was it
Oh, that was-
with Xiangyu.